Good evening, I'm Clara. Breaking news is coming in. Let's get straight to the story.
All in. The free world is looking to the United States of America. And, friends, the United States of America is looking to the state of Indiana. A stunning blow to the president tonight as the Hoosier state rises up against Donald Trump. Threats of primaries, threats of violence, actual acts of violence. This evening, Pete Buttigieg weighs in on Indiana's spectacular redistricting collapse and on the diminishing clout of the Trump White House. A surreal scene on Capitol Hill. Ms. Noem, will you thank Mr. Brown for his service to our country? Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your service. The head of Trump's deportation apparatus gets confronted in the House. And really, what possible justification can there be for locking up his wife for 4 months when her only crime was writing 2 bad checks totaling $80? Plus, what today's big healthcare vote means for Americans already getting squeezed under the Trump economy. Plus. Yeah. A++. All in starts right now. Good evening from New York, I'm Chris Hayes. If you're Donald Trump, today was absolutely brutal, one humiliating political defeat stacked on top of another. For much of his second term, Trump and his circle have projected this aura of invulnerability and absolute dominance. Bow to the king. You cannot stand against us. But I've got to tell you, those days seem like they're fading fast, disappearing right before our eyes along with the president's political capital. First today, a federal grand jury returned a no-true bill, refusing to rubber-stamp the Justice Department's attempt to indict New York Attorney General Chris James on obviously trumped-up charges. And if that sounds familiar, it's because another federal grand jury did the exact same thing just last week. It's hard to overstate how rare, almost unheard of, it once was for a federal grand jury to deny an indictment request from DOJ prosecutors. And yet it's now happened twice in 2 weeks, in the same case, because the Trump administration wildly overreached. All this comes after their first attempt to prosecute James completely collapsed last month and got tossed out of court. So if you're keeping score, that's 0 for 3. But this afternoon, things got even worse for Donald Trump. In Indiana, the president was dealt a dramatic, and honestly, kind of jaw-dropping, rebuke by Republican legislators in a state he carried by nearly 20 points just last year. In the state Senate, where Republicans dominate with a 40-10 supermajority, Trump's plan to redraw Indiana's congressional map to wipe out the last 2 Democratic districts was crushed, 31-19. Trump, naturally, wants you to believe he's totally unbothered. It's funny because I won Indiana all 3 times by a landslide and I wasn't even trying that hard. Would have been nice, could have picked up 2 seats. You had one guy, Bray, whatever his name is, heard he was against it. He'll probably lose his next primary. I hope he does. You can tell from that long ramble how barely invested he supposedly was. And despite claiming he wasn't involved, Trump led an enormous pressure campaign. J.D. Vance literally flew to Indiana to lobby legislators, and apparently discovered he is not especially convincing in person. Then Vance jumped on Twitter, attacking Rod Bray, the Senate leader Trump pretended not to know. Quote, Rod Bray has consistently told us he wouldn't fight redistricting while whipping votes against it. That level of dishonesty cannot be rewarded. Well, the Indiana GOP did choose a side. And it wasn't Trump and Vance. The president himself was on the phone leaning on lawmakers, and then went on an absolutely unhinged tirade on social media last night. Anyone who votes against redistricting and the success of the Republican Party in D.C. will face a MAGA primary in the spring. Rod Bray and his friends won't be in politics for long. Meanwhile, the Heritage Foundation basically tried running a full-on mob-style extortion operation on the state. I'm not exaggerating. They wrote, if the Indiana Senate fails to pass the map, all federal funding will be stripped from the state. Roads will not be paved. Guard bases will close. Major projects will stop. Really? Indiana's roads are going to be left unpaved out of spite. But the ugliest intimidation tactic, and one we've sadly come to expect, was the wave of death threats. More than a dozen lawmakers reported receiving them. One Republican senator, Mike Bohasek, refused to back the bill after Trump used a slur aimed at people with intellectual disabilities. Bohasek has a daughter with Down syndrome, and the day he explained his vote, he got a bomb threat. Another GOP senator told the AP that he supported the bill partly because he feared for his family. Listen to him. I got a bomb threat at my business. And you ask yourself, is it worth it? Is my family's safety worth it? Think about that. He is literally weighing whether standing up to an obviously corrupt power grab is worth risking his family's safety. And yet, even with all that, Indiana Republicans delivered a simple, remarkable message to the president: no. As one of them said on the floor, threats of primaries, threats of violence, acts of violence, friends, we're better than this, are we not? After hours of debate, the final vote wasn't close. The no votes came pouring in. And I think this is a sign the political landscape is shifting rapidly. Faster than a lot of the political class in Washington seems to realize. Republicans defied Trump on the Epstein files. They pushed back on his Venezuela regime change plans and the killing of civilians in the Caribbean. Now this stinging rejection from his own party in deep red Indiana. And on the same day, an AP poll shows Trump's approval sinking to 36%. Those two facts are not unrelated. The president is starting to quack like a lame duck. Pete Buttigieg, former transportation secretary and former mayor of South Bend, returned to Indiana earlier this year to campaign against redistricting. He joins me now.